Good morning, good morning. It is the 3rd of March, the year 2025. Thank you so much for joining us right here in Morning Cafe. It's World Wildlife Day. Take care.
All right. And I've been challenged to just do a countdown to Christmas. So it's exactly 297 days to Christmas for those who care. Karibu sana, this is the Morning Cafe. My name is Freddie.
My name is Anne Odida. Twendekazi. Now, the headlines on the dailies today. Daily Nation, red flags in Ruto's housing projects.
Wow.
Alarming. Look at that.
Kwenye Taifa Leo anasema Raila mwokozi wa adui zake.
Okay. The Standard co-president Raila.
They've become experts in two-word headlines.
You know, before we continue, last week they did something about Muhoozi. They said foster brat. And Muhoozi, you know, responded.
Akasema atakuja Nairobi.
Where? People Daily, Wangari Maathai's letter to Ruto. This newspaper has dedicated almost 6 pages to Wangari Maathai.
Yes, they pride themselves as being the greenest newspaper in Kenya. Matters business sale of Hilton.
Yes.
Intercon collapses on failed bid. So we have 2 big hotels in Kenya that are to be sold.
All right.
Kuna mtu hapo.
The Star, families go hungry as high food prices bite.
Wow.
Families have been going hungry. We'll take a look at what's different this time. All right, we'll be back to take a look at the local dailies later on, but let's cross over to our regions. The East African turning the tide in Congo is the top story there, bolstered by actions against Rwanda by EU, US and UK. Kinshasa now turns to Western entities, inviting them to tap minerals on its soil with a belief it could bring peace by cutting off support to militias. We see a photo there of the Democratic Republic of Congo President Felix Tshisekedi with the International Criminal Court prosecutor, that is Karim Khan, in Kinshasa. The war in Congo is still going on, by the way.
You can see definitely the ICC now is focusing on DRC as well.
Yes.
Because after this war, yes, there will be some people who will have to go to The Hague.
Okay. RSF's attempt to coalition unity off to a false start, and they say wrangling between members is threatening to tear it apart. RSF is the one that set up a parallel government in Kenya.
Yes.
Yes. Headache of Besigye's absence and opposition's plan for 2026 now in jeopardy. Story on page 6 of the East African. Let's cross over to Uganda.
Yes, and as always, Uganda matters education are given prominence. This is a Daily Monitor. They say how government has let down schoolgirls. So issues to do with menstrual poverty. Despite modest make-do efforts to plug gaps for sanitary pads, a new report blames politics, failure by government technocrats, and cultural biases for making 6 in every 10 girls miss school due to menstruation every year. Now, this is one of the issues that has been discussed, even in Kenya. In our own situation, there are so many different initiatives trying to ensure that girls remain in school throughout their schooling period. It would appear, now this one paints a picture of just how bad the situation is in Uganda. 6 out of 10, that's about 3 in every 5. 60%, that's a very huge number. So matters education there, a wildlife boon. Of course, today being World Wildlife Day, they talk about inside Uganda's wildlife boom. And how AIDS Trust Fund can address HIV funding gaps. Of course, still reeling from the effects of that withdrawal of funding to WHO and also shutting down of USAID. That's the Daily Monitor.
All right. New Vision, water crisis hits country. Ugandans forced to share water sources with animals. And we see a photo here of residents of Amber Store Indian quarters in Mbale City as they await their turn to fill their jerrycans at a well. as a water shortage hits the city because of a prolonged dry spell all over Uganda, and this has led to a growing water crisis in several parts of the country. Will we see this in Kenya as well, Manaki?
Remember, it's been quite warm. Yes, sweltering heat. They say in Uganda they were hitting temperatures of about 41, 42 in some areas. In Kenya, it hasn't gotten that bad, but we're still getting to 39 in some areas. So tutaona mvua siku gani? We'll be back to that.
But the weatherman is saying maybe next week in some parts of the western area. We'll see. 300 public servants failed to declare wealth, face sanctions. Story on page 4.
Only 300. I think in Kenya they're about 30,000 when they declare.
All right. On health, why glaucoma is the silent thief of sight. Story on pages 29 to 30. On the top strip, we see Museveni rallies and Kole on industrial development.
All right.
Story on page 5, and that's the new vision.
We cross over to Tanzania and we start off with the Citizen. Analysts applaud central bank move on online lenders, but it's a question there. And remember last week, the central bank in Tanzania did what Kenyan central bank did on the mobile money lending apps. Kaambia musikwe munachukua simu munapigia watu. So Bank of Tanzania has been urged to empower members of the public with information that will make it possible for them to easily identify legitimate lenders and avoid borrowing from outfits of dubious repute. Yeah, so just beyond telling them, oh, don't take people's numbers, even the citizenry should be empowered enough. Ndo wajue hawa usiende huko. They put someone there, a borrower, anasema, I borrowed a small amount, but within weeks, the debt doubled due to hidden fees and sky-high interest rates. When I missed a payment, they started threatening me. Very familiar stories.
Yeah.
10, that's the number of entities that have been licensed by the Bank of Tanzania to operate online lending services under strict conditions. Yes, ameambiwa mkileta mchezo nje. Other stories on the front page of this paper, why maternal neonatal deaths have dropped in 5 regions. That's something positive in Tanzania, because Tanzania is so vast that ensuring there's proper healthcare, roads and everything has become a challenge. Meanwhile, Samia Suluhu Hassan is, you know, the way President William Ruto has said, next week I'm going to do a tour of the coastal region. Yeah. Now Samia is touring Tanga. Samia tour sets the stage for Tanga economic rebound. They also make mention of the World Wildlife Day. Wildlife census set to cost 4 billion Tanzanian money. That's the Citizen today.
All right. Gazeti la Mwananchi, Dar ya sasa si kama ya zamani. Na kama mara yako ya mwisho kufika Dar es Salaam ni miaka 10 iliyopita, pengine unahitaji mwenyeji wa kufokea na kukuelekeza maeneo mbalimbali ya jiji hili. Hilo linatokana na ukweli kwamba karibu kila area ya Dar iko sawa sasa. Siasa kule chini, mguu ndani, mguu nje. Same case, we could say the same thing with Kenya. Raila Odinga, mguu ndani, mguu nje.
Ako wapi?
Chadema yapigilia msumari masharti ya kushiriki kwao, akisisitiza no reform, no election. ACT, CCM, NCCR, CUF, NLD na ADC safari inaendelea, watangaza wagombea. Na Tundu Lissu amekuwa quoted hapa akisema Chadema haijasema itasusia uchaguzi bali itazuia uchaguzi. Hatuja remba hapo, tutawaalika Watanzania kuungana nasi.
Well, they're demanding that constitutional reforms before the election. Something similar, I think 20 years ago, there was that clamor in Kenya. No reforms, no elections. Yes.
Profesa Lipumba alia na sera ya kukuza uchumi, habari katika ukurasa wa 21 wa gazeti hili la Mwananchi. Na kule chini tunaona jinsi ya kulinda taarifa binafsi, nyumba za wageni. That's Airbnbs. Nilikuwa nakereka sana, naenda guest na mpenzi wangu, natakiwa kuandika taarifa nitokako na niendako. Kiukweli nilikuwa natoa taarifa za uongo kuanzia majina, namba za simu na makazi.
Unajua wanazita guests, hotels and lodges, and now the kind of information you have to give. Na maybe umeenda huko na umeenda na ule mtu haufai kuenda na yeye, lakini unaandika hapo na unaandika ule mwenye mko naye na namba yake na kila kitu. You just incriminate yourself.
But you know, the same thing happened in Kenya, I think last year, when there was massive mysterious deaths. So especially after Rita Waini's death, there were certain things. They said you have to provide your ID, your name, you sign whenever you come in, whenever you leave.
But you see here what they say, and that's a problem somewhere, that people nowadays don't give their genuine details. Hata kwa hizo vitabu ukiingia any building in town wakwambia sign up, unaandika tu vitu from nowhere.
Criminal. If you're doing that, you're a criminal. Gazeti la Mwananchi.
All right.
So we'll be back to take a look at the local dailies, that's regional dailies. Let's take a look at the weather situation. We start off, this is Turkana. 20 people are still missing in Turkana, in the border of Ethiopia and Turkana. It's 26 degrees, it feels like it. Highs of 37 degrees, very, very hot. Lakini, they're saying it promises to rain next week, and that's starting Sunday.
Yes.
As you can see, precipitation here will be 10.7 millimeters, so it will definitely rain, but starting
next week.
Sunday.
Next
yes.
week. For this week, bado jua ni kali kila mahali.
For this week, right now it's 26 degrees, highs of 37 degrees, sunny throughout. Kunywa maji. Let's take a look at Tana River.
Tana River, same prevailing weather conditions, still very warm temperatures. It is currently 25 degrees. 25 is actually very high. Feels like 27 degrees. Highs of 37. Clear skies throughout the day. Also promises probably to rain next week from Monday there, where it will be probably, yes, 11 millimeters of rainfall. So, yes, there's hope in March that there will be rainfall starting the mid-month. But this week, jua bado iko kali.
Yes. Kisii, there is a mysterious disease there. Nobody knows what it is, but we're hoping that by this week or maybe today, we'll know what's happening in Kisii. It's 17 degrees, as at now it feels like 17. Highs of 32 degrees, sunny throughout. They say little cloud cover, we'll see. Lakini tena, it promises to rain starting Sunday. High precipitation here, 8.9 millimeters, not so much, but at least itatoa vumbi if there is in Kisii. And Mombasa.
That's next week.
Yes, next week. In Mombasa, Raila Odinga is here?
Yes, Raila Odinga is in Mombasa. Remember, he's expected to make a major announcement this week. Whether or not he'll do it in Mombasa, we have to wait and see. He says he's consulting people at the coast. Promises to get as high as 31 degrees, sunshine throughout the day, just as we've seen in the other parts of the country. Ikifika weekend next week, then probably we'll get some rainfall. So next Sunday, there could be some rain in Mombasa. Not much, but at least, as you said, itatoa vumbi.
Yes.
Yes. So similar weather pattern.
Yeah. Let's come back home to Nairobi. It's 17 degrees, it feels like it. Highs of 28 degrees expected today, sunny throughout. This is not bad. Jana tulikuwa at 30. Last week 30, 31, you know, it was so bad. It promises to rain starting Saturday. Precipitation here.
Kidogo sana.
Kidogo sana.
Yes. So yes, at least they say kuna hope.
Yeah.
Dry at least for the next 1 week, but then next week some manyunyu hapa na pale.
Yes.
So things are going to get better.
Right. We'll see. Let's take a look at the traffic situation. 13 minutes past the top of the hour. How does the road look like? Here we are. This is the Nairobi traffic. Tuone kama mmeamka. It's a new week, a new month. Somewhere here around Gikomba area. We see something here. Ama watu wanaenda
That's Haile Selassie Avenue. Hapo
Yes.
inakuanga busy. Inamaanisha matatu zinaingia town sana.
Yes. That's Gikomba area. Let's take a look at other areas. That's Lower Kabete. Not much happening. Clear roads.
I'm seeing a bit of activity, especially on this road. This is
Kangundo?
Kangundo Road, yes. But hapa ni kawaida. Areas of Kayole, kunaitwaje huko kwingine. Pale
Joska?
ukiingia, yes, Joska, karibia pale Mama Lucy Hospital heading towards Outer Ring Road. This is a busy road, but it's typical Monday traffic. Pale Outer Ring Road hapa pia naona, hapa chini further areas around Tumaini Estate, hapo as you head towards Donholm. Also getting busy, matatu zikibeba watu pale. Jogoo Road is fair today, not so bad.
Best time to leave the house is now. Pangani area, here it is, the usual trouble spot. Let's see.
Building up on that interchange.
Yeah, but not so bad. So unaweza toka sasa hivi. I think you get to town in good time. What's this?
That's a small matter just next to Muthaiga police station as you head towards the other side of town.
All right, that's the traffic situation. We'll be back to take a look at it, hopefully after 30 minutes. So let's take a look at the quote of the day. In every setback lies the seed of an even greater comeback. Don't let temporary failure define you. Let it fuel you to rise stronger and more determined than ever. All right, let's take a look at the local dailies. All right, we start off with the Daily Nation, and they say red flags in Ruto's housing projects. Low uptake, only 1 in 559 adults are saving at Boma Yangu platform to own the affordable houses. It could be true, sababu, yeah, okay.
Hujajisajili bado. Hautaki nyumba?
Koma kabisa. The government has entered into 49.5 billion Kenyan shillings affordable housing contracts on parcels of land with missing title deeds. Now, this raises questions on how Kenyans buying houses from the projects will get sectional titles to own the units in absence of original titles at a time when the affordable housing program continues to operate in an opaque regulatory environment. Are beneficiaries risking their hard-earned cash?
That's a great question they're asking there. Okay, fine. Serious questions have to be answered. There were questions surrounding how the land was acquired because it's public land. Who owns it now? Is it public land? Does it still belong to the government even after the projects are coming up? So what happens to the owners? Will you own a house on government land going forward? What about when the administration changes? So many questions. So wanauliza hapa, are beneficiaries are risking their hard-earned cash? Story on pages 4 and 5 of this paper.
Auditor says questions abound as to whether Kenyans buying the house will get land ownership documents for their units in the absence of original titles from which the sectional titles will be derived. Other stories there, it's a big win for employees on pay after layoffs. Now, in a president's setting judgment that advances the rights of workers and trade unions, an appellate bench comprising Justices Pauline Nyamweya, Lydia Achode, and Weldon Korir have upheld the finding of the Employment and Labor Relations Court that former Barclays Bank, that is now Absa Bank Kenya employees, would benefit from a collective bargaining agreement signed after they exited service, but covering the period when they were still in employment. And they say it's a big win for employees on pay after layoffs. Okay. Untouchables probe into job scam goes cold. Thousands of vulnerable job seekers cumulatively lost over 2.5 billion shillings to suspect job recruitment agencies that promised them better lives abroad but left them in misery. You know, last week on Twitter, I saw, what is it called? Alfred Mutua, yeah? He had posted a photo there, or he had posted with some other guys in, I think, Saudi Arabia, where he was saying that it's a room where people going to Saudi Arabia will be sitting there or staying there before they get accustomed to Saudi Arabia and how it feels. And there was so much discourse surrounding it, to why will they do that? Mbona hiyo nyumba imewekwa hapo? And you know,
it continues. Now, those people who have actually lost money, at least those ones have made it to Saudi Arabia, but there are so many more who've lost a lot of money. The probe was continuing, but now it has gone cold. So what happens to them and their money?
Like Uhuru, Ruto's reign now at the mercy of Raila. Very top story, that one. Betrayal and bloodshed cover-up of JM Kariuki's assassination. 50 years later, the family is still seeking justice for JM Kariuki's assassination. They marked the 50-year celebration yesterday here in Nairobi.
On the back page, they give us something of the Daily Nation about the Tokyo Marathon yesterday. Kenya's Winfrida Moraa-Moseti finishes in second place in the women's category of the Tokyo Marathon yesterday. And Kenya's Vincent Kipkemoi finished third in the men's category of the Tokyo Marathon yesterday. Now Moseti, the lady, says she dedicates the podium finish to her spouse. Do you ever get to hear that? Especially coming from the lady,
wow,
from a woman saying, this, what I've done,
yeah,
dedicating it to my spouse.
She's not the first.
We have more than one reason to clap for Winfrida Moraa-Moseti. Congratulations.
Tomorrow I'm coming back here with evidence of women who have done similar things. That's the Daily Nation.
Do it first, then we'll see. We'll clap for you as well.
All right.
Kwenye gazeti la Taifa Leo, habari kuu pale wanasema Raila mwokozi wa adui zake, na alikuwa adui wa Uhuru Kenyatta wakati mmoja, alafu akarudi kumsaidia. Akawa adui wa William Ruto wakati mwingine, sasa tena anarudi kumsaidia. Alimnasua Uhuru Kenyatta mwaka 2018 dhidi ya Ruto, kisha 2024 akamwokoa Ruto dhidi ya Gachagua. Yeye ndo anakujanga tu. Is a fire brigade. Ukiungua, saidia sisi.
Anazima.
Kinaya huyu. Raila Odinga ni mwanasiasa wa upinzani ambaye hutoa kijasho wawaniaji wa serikali, ila kinaya ni kwamba kila baada ya uchaguzi maasimu wake wakijipata kona mbaya, kisha yeye hujitokeza kuwaokoa. And he has made quite a job of that. He is actually the professional savior of presidents in Kenya. Habari kuu pale, lakini si habari mpya, tunaijua hiyo. Vidokezo zaidi pale chini kwenye ukurasa wa mbele wa hili gazeti wanasema Ramadhan, ukarimu wasisitizwa. Kumbuka bado ni mwezi mkuu wa Ramadhani, tuko katika siku ya 3. Waumini wa Kiislamu waombwa wafae jamii zenye mapato madogo katika mfungo. Kwingineko, kaunti 8 sasa zaanikwa kuhusu ajira. Mkaguzi wa hesabu za serikali Nancy Gathungu ambaye amepiga vichwa vya habari kwa muda sasa, anasema bainisha jinsi counties zilikiuka waziwazi kanuni za uajiri. Some counties you go to and it's just one community working for the county government. Hakuna hata diversity anywhere. Pale juu anasema tunaungana kuokoa Kenya hapa. Gachagua asisitiza kapu la kura za mlima na mashariki liko tayari, akilenga maeneo mengine ya nchi. Na kwenye spoti, drama ya VAR za tawala FA, City ikisonga kwa jasho. Ilikuwa ajabu kwa marefa kutumbulia jicho viwambo vya VAR kwa dakika 8 kabla ya kufanya uamuzi. Taking too long to make decisions. Hilo gazeti la Taifa Leo.
All right, the Standard, co-president Raila. Power shifts, a political realignment is taking shape as ODM leader Raila Odinga nears a deal with President William Ruto. Now, the agreement, modeled after past power-sharing pacts, could see Raila assume a non-executive prime minister role. Sources say plans are underway to prepare Harambee House, traditionally the seat of the presidency, for him. Now, this is a conversation that has been going on tangia toke Addis Ababa.
This one is interesting because the only other time we saw such kind of a move was in the Grand Coalition government, where the current offices that house the deputy president's office were set out for the prime minister then. Na kulikuwa na debate mingi sana ya protocol, nani atatajwa after president, who comes next? Is it the VP or the prime minister?
Raila Odinga is quoted here saying, I arrived in Mombasa last week from Dubai and met President William Ruto and his people at State House, where they gave me an agreement to sign touching on several issues. I told them I could not sign before consulting the party members. He was in Kisumu sometime last week. Today is in Mombasa, so we're expecting to hear from Raila. The story is quite interesting. And they say NADCO report could be rushed through Parliament to create the office of Prime Minister. And the ODM leader is said to be pushing for more cabinet and principal secretary slots. All right. And Raila's security has already been beefed up because President Ruto is expected to create the office of a non-executive prime minister for him at Harambee House Annex. This is our source, or the Standard. On the top strip of the Standard, Kivuiti family in a bitter feud over how to share wealth. Now, the High Court has ordered the family of Kivuiti, the former chairman of the Electoral Commission of Kenya, to negotiate how his wealth will be distributed. Kivuiti passed away in 2013, leaving behind his second wife Priscilla Ndululu and children from both marriages. 42 billion shillings roads cash to pay contractors. Story on page 19 of the Business in the Standard. And Ugandan army deploys to North DRC. Of course, the war in DRC is still quite an issue of concern. What it will take for McCarthy to succeed. Story on the back page of the Standard. And that's the Standard.
On People Daily, they take a totally different route today. Matters environment being given prominence there. It is Wangari Maathai Day, and so this paper that prides itself as being the greenest paper has the image of the Nobel laureate, the late Wangari Maathai, and they say Wangari Maathai's letter to Ruto on matters environment. I implore you to put the future of our children and the integrity of our natural heritage at the forefront of your agenda. So they've covered this, stories to do with the environment, and from pages 4, 5, 6, 7, 11, and 17. This is how serious the People Daily is focusing on matters environment. And let me just read the letter. Dear Mr. President, we write to you today as a concerned non-profit organization that was started in 1977 by Nobel laureate Wangari Maathai. As citizens, our hearts are heavy with both sorrow and urgency as we are deeply troubled by the current state of our nation's environmental heritage, which was once shone brightly. Today, as we mark Wangari Maathai Day, a day meant to celebrate her remarkable legacy and relentless fight for nature, we feel compelled to express our deep disappointment. That's the People Daily. The only other story that finds space on the front page of the People Daily is actually a strip pale juu. Raila to chair ODM talks over Ruto alliance. And that's the People Daily.
Yeah. Business Daily, sale of Hilton, Intercon collapses on failed bids, and the state's planned diversity teacher from Nairobi's collapsed iconic Hilton and Intercontinental hotels has run into headwinds amid struggles to find a buyer for the prime properties. Now, documents tabled in the National Assembly revealed that the privatization authority did not get a buyer to match the reserve prices set by the government for its shares in the two rusting high-end hotels. Now, their sale was approved by Parliament 12 years ago. That story there of the Hilton Hotel and the Intercontinental Hotel. Kenya to issue 135 billion shillings roads bond for pending bills, and KRB, that is the Kenya Roads Board, has received the green light to issue a 135 billion bond whose proceeds will be used to settle mounting pending bills that have triggered the closure and auction of some small contractors. On the ticker, KRA opens order for 350 body cams in tax cheats crackdown. Kenya to enter Tanzania, India markets by next June, and Nyayo car maker records fast profit after 10 years. That's the Business Daily.
Let's take a look at the Star. Families go hungry as high food prices bite. That's the front page of the Star today. Inflation wreaks havoc on home budgets. So the story is on pages 4 and 5, and they talk about the economic situation in the country. Notably, prices of sugar, cooking oil and tomatoes rose by 3.2%, 1.6% and 1.3% respectively between January and February this year. We do hope that probably with the rain starting next week, this could change, but it does take time. Meanwhile, Kenyans are suffering. And there's a commentary there by the Secretary General of the Consumer Federation of Kenya, Stephen Mutoro, saying leadership has failed Kenyans. That's the main story. Other quick highlights on the NADCO issue, MPs have slammed brakes on gender top-ups in Parliament. Remember, to cover that two-thirds gender rule. So there are proposals in NADCO that they do the same that they've done in the county assemblies. Just increase the number of whichever gender is lacking in the numbers, but MPs wamesema right now that will just cause another budget.
All right, 30 minutes past the top of the hour. Let's take a look at the caricatures. This is the
People Daily.
People Daily.
Pale unaona jamaa anapika supu 2027 recipe na amevaa ile kofia ya mfalme wa mlima.
Yeah.
Alafu kuna jamaa analeta kuni upande hii na mwingine analeta maji upande ile. Nasema call it mouth watering delicacies. So this is a plan right now. Eastern, Western, mlima.
Yes.
That's one axis.
Nakumbuka last week waliambiwa kazi yenu ni kusema Ruto. Alijibu akasema hiyo ndo kazi yetu.
Hatuna kazi nyingine.
Hatuna kazi nyingine. I am consulting widely on my next move. This is a caricature there of former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. Who is this? Anauliza consultation.
But any consultations, they're still consulting.
All right.
On the Daily Nation, they talk about political parties and the rebranding that we are seeing now. This a cue by the famous or infamous pigs. Some registrar of political parties. Some I can rebrand. Can I rebrand to Lies Party of Kenya? Then I'll get away with never telling the truth. Wanasema nini kuhusu watu wenye wame rebrand parties?
Yeah. They look nice.
All right.
The Star. Now we sell this to our people. This is a caricature here of the president and
the former prime minister.
Former Prime Minister Raila Odinga. Anasema hapo, totally ensure we sell out.
And I like the play of words here. Sell out means something else.
Yes.
Yeah. So amekuja hapa na wheelbarrow imejaa machungwa alafu anaambiana now we sell this to our people. Yeah. Anasema totally ensure we sell out. Who sold out or who has been accused of selling out?
Yes. All right. Hayo ndio masuala ambayo
kwa
mnazungumzia.
Yes, we'll be looking at these headlines today with my panelists. State of the Nation being a Monday, we have a power panel. Dr. Mumbi Ngaru, former MP, East Africa Legislative Assembly, will be with us this morning alongside Samuel Pogisio, who has served as Majority Leader in the Senate and also as a Cabinet Minister in the Kibaki administration. Interestingly, Bwana Pogisio served in the Grand Coalition government. Sasa anaelewa mambo ya co-president na zile shida zilikuwa zinakuja na Prime Minister na President na Vice President.
Interesting.
And Danson Mungatana, Senator Tana River County, will be with us in studio as well.
All right. Being a Monday Blitz will also be here. Innocent Mutiso, former Harambee Stars player. Janet Kimani, a sports journalist, together with Shatta Boy and Fred Arocho.
Yes, you know Harambee Stars has a new head coach, Benny McCarthy, the South African. Walikuwa nasema ile pesa analipo, it's about 8 million shillings a month. So will he be the magic pill or the panacea for Kenyan football? Benny McCarthy on the wheel.
After that, this conversation with Patrick Lukusa, Managing Director, Odo Kenya, that is on leveraging technology for SME growth, later on from 9 a.m. to 9:30 a.m. after Monday Blitz. So interact with us on our social media platforms, TV47 Kenya on Facebook and YouTube, on X at TV47 News KE. My handle is at Ann_Dida. The hashtag is Morning Cafe.
My handle on X is at Fred Ndemuli.
Stay with us.
Our world is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's minds. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on The Green Fix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Arora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on The Green Fix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your good tooth as long as it is strong and stable.
Cancer doesn't start today and you get the symptoms tomorrow. By the time you pick it or the time it is manifesting in you, probably will be there about 5 to 10 years.
The eye is the window to the rest of the body.
Don't forget to stay hydrated.
And of course, you at home do take your water.
So the ultimate test is actually you check your urine. Your urine should be clear.
Clear like the water?
Yes. Should be able to see the other side of the urine. If your urine is colored or has changed color, you cannot see the other side, then you have not taken enough water.
Don't forget regular health checkups. Early detection saves lives.
I want the message be, we can prevent cervical cancer. We prevent cervical cancer in several ways. You have young girls and even somebody who's above that age, you can pay at least every 3 years. Somebody should have a pap smear done.
If you are 40, 45, 50 going upwards, once a year, please go see a doctor. Yeah, it's just for normal routine maintenance.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Jiunge nasi tunapoangazia safari za viongozi bora. Kutoka kwa ushindi mkubwa hadi masomo magumu.
Wakati wetu kwamba wasichana si wa kusoma, ni wa kuolewa, ng'ombe ipatikane, wazazi wakuwa watajiri.
Tunashughulikia yote.
I wish I were a better investor.
My parents taught me how to look for things for myself.
Tazama Mfahamu Kiongozi, ambapo kila kipindi kimejaa maarifa, mikakati na hadithi za kukuza azma yako.
For me to succeed, I have to fight.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30.
Nyinyi mnajua.
An unapologetic president.
Mnajua.
President William Ruto pulling no punches, directing his measured words towards critics of his donations to the church.
Wakati tunamtolea Mungu, hatumpatii binadamu. Si ndio? Matoleo tunayotoa sio kwa sababu tunampatia Bishop Mwai. Hatupatii congregation hii, tunampatia Mungu.
This is a president who has in the past been the subject of sharp reprimands from a section of clergy over his donations to churches, with some clergy publicly rejecting the donations outright.
Mimi nimejaribu sana kutafuta kwa Biblia. Na mimi ni msomi wa kiasi wa Biblia. Nimejaribu kutafuta mahali inasema ati ukimpatia Mungu unarudishiwa na askofu.
Unmoved, the president moved to silence his detractors by giving a donation of 20 million shillings towards the construction of the Jesus Winner Church Roysambu, with the promise of an additional 100 million shillings.
Na wengine wetu, mimi nikiweko, I am a product of giving to God. And I am unapologetic about giving to God. And I do it on the firm foundation of the scriptures.
President Ruto now maintains that he will not stop giving donations to churches amid the rising criticism from a section of the clergy and Kenyans. Ruto's donations have triggered hot debate and heavy criticism before, with many unhappy at what appeared to be the state or the political capture of the pulpits, and all in a tight economy, amid claims that the millions donated to churches are proceeds of graft. November 17, 2024, the Catholic Church Archdiocese of Nairobi returned a 2.8 million shillings donation. Mwege William, TV47.
Yes, indeed. You're still watching TV47. This is State of the Nation with me, Fred Ndimuli. Fundraisers are back with a bang, with the president pledging 100 million shillings to a church. He gave 20 million shillings in cash. Only a week ago, the National Assembly Leader of Majority, Kimani Ichung'wah, delivered another donation of 5 million shillings from the president and 2 million shillings from the deputy president. That's where we start this morning. Allow me to acknowledge and welcome my panelists, beginning on my left. Samuel Pogisio, who has served as the leader of majority in the Senate in the 12th Parliament and also served as a cabinet minister in the Kibaki II administration. Good morning, karibu sana. Good morning. We're also honored to have Dr. Mumbing Garu, who has served as MP, East Africa Legislative Assembly, and also as Mayor of Thika Town. It's a pleasure to have you in studio.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Danso Mungatana, Senator Tana River, also joins us. He also serves in the Pan-African Parliament. Karibu sana, Senator.
Thank you.
And that's where we start our discussion this morning. Is it charity or playing politics? That's on the front page of the Standard. Fundraisers make a comeback, and we've seen President William Ruto taking time to actually defend his actions. Last year, we saw this kind of action. The Gen Z said, no, we don't want money in churches. Politics in churches has to end. And for a while, that seemed to have been the order of the day. And we've seen even some churches rejecting, even going as far as returning some of these monies to those who are offering them. But now it would appear the president and his allies have been emboldened to go back to that kind of contributions to churches. Pogisio, let's start from there. Charity or playing politics? That's a question on the front page of the Standard.
Thank you, Fred. Thank you. And I believe that it was the president himself who announced, I think last year, that no public servant or state official will participate in this thing. It was banned, literally, by the president. So what I've seen in the speech, in the presentation this week, is that the president has moved a notch higher. He's not giving to a bishop or to a church. He's found a new thing to talk about, giving to God. Now, that's too high. I mean, that one now is gone high, so that nobody can question it. I mean, look, if you listen to him, it says giving to God, 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 God. It's God, okay? Giving to God. However, my problem is that if you're giving to God, why should we know? Surely, I mean, if it's so high, too high for us, why should he be announced? Why should it be, told publicly that I'm giving God so much? I mean, God, you can't measure what you can give to God. If it's up to me, you cannot measure. You cannot say, God, I'm giving you 100 million. I'm giving you this. So let's cut this language thing, and just say we are back to Harambes. Let's just say that. I mean, there's no point in trying to make it look like we are now gone a notch higher than the church. If you read the Bible, and it says if you really want to give it properly, one hand should not know what the other hand is doing. And so let's give it. The problem with this particular giving is that it is given 20 million and pledging 100 million. That money, if you wanted to spread it, actually you could spread it to so many churches. So what's special about this particular church? And why is it becoming so difficult to explain why you're giving that money? So I mean, it's his money, there has been a lot of money in this government, a lot of money that is spent in ways that we cannot understand. And yet there is a shortage somewhere else. Do you really justify that where there is a shortage, there is a real need? And the church, one church gets 120 million. Would you justify that? And yet you see people in hospitals who have been turned away. You've seen all these kind of problems that are there. Be generous, but be generous towards a particular cause. So I think I can't control somebody's money. I hope it's not our public money, because surely, I mean, public money cannot go to an individual, to church. Public money should go to a public cause. So I'm hoping. I saw that there's a rearrangement now where even the new deputy president now has so much money. So I wonder whether the money is resident or I don't know where the money is coming from. But I do believe that we have suddenly become a society that, in my view, want to play politics with these things. I do believe that because of the reaction of the church, you're going to find that some churches must begin to develop the political attraction and speak for this government or speak for the president. So I think that probably is a way to say it. But I do not have any quarrel with a person giving away their money, except it is in the law that money can be tracked to things, questions about sources, questions about, should we do Harambes now? Are we now open to go and publicly give money and so on? So anyway, I do want to say, Mr. President, just say it as it is, giving it to a church, particular church, for a building.
Yes.
This idea of saying I'm giving it to God doesn't cut it.
And the question is, yes, there are questions about the source of the money, and that probably we may not be able to track it down now. But if at all it's charity, there are so many charitable ventures that you can get to. The issue is, why give all this money just to a church? The president, just a day before that, he was in Baringo, where we have problems with schools that don't even have classrooms. He is not seen being that charitable to such causes, but he goes to a church, gives 20 million and pledges 100 million more. Surely, if it's real charity, it should go to some things that Kenyans can actually say, okay, fine, ape imetusaidia.
Fred, good morning.
Good morning.
It's very difficult to discuss somebody's faith. But irrespective of whether it's Christian or Muslim, there are some guidelines. And therefore, I will comment on the acceptable guidelines about one's faith. The motive of the giving and the manner of giving are very important. Those of us who are Christians are told, when giving with your right hand, let not even your left hand know what you are giving. I cannot quote it in the Islamic faith, but I know it is there. And even in other religions, is a sacred thing. The source of the resources you are giving to the church or for such a cause that is faith-based is also questionable. You cannot go rob a bank and decide that part of it you will take to God. There are also some guidelines about that. But we are in a political field, and therefore we also open up to the field we are in. Giving to God has been questioned And a policy statement came from the president himself. And there are churches like the Catholic Church that took a step further and said, no, this one we are also taking it back. So I will interpret it from that perspective. That is a political game. And because the politics of the government is very, very fluid, people are dissatisfied. And once you go to Mazishi, even a letter, a message of condolence to the family is not being received. You have to get a way of passing the message, and the church probably has been identified as a good ground.
Some churches, not all.
Some churches. Yes. It's a good ground where the congregation can be kind of controlled. My colleague here know that the church, the religion, did a good thing for them in the last election. And therefore, it's a good avenue. And then it was in one of those regions, the church is in a region where is a gateway to Mount Kenya. And that's a good entrance.
Yeah, okay.
And preaching from there and getting into the mountain and attracting other churches that can have that kind of a thing is now open and it is doable. The sad thing is bringing God in the whole equation is not a neat thing. I mean, just say we've opened up Harambes, go give, it is your money, nobody is asking you where it came from. You know who to give, and it is your democratic right to do what you want with it. Even when it comes to that your own background, the classrooms are under a tree, and the children are sitting on the ground. Just open it up, let it be abused. It has been done before. So I think, like I said, I want to respect that faith, the way somebody interprets their relationship about their wealth and God. He's the giver of us all. But we leave it at that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Senator Mungatana, when President William Ruto last year put a stop to Harambes, when he banned, at the height of the Gen Z protests, he banned state officers from participating in public fundraisers. There was a reason to it. He must have known that it was prone to abuse, and probably that was not the right way. For the same president to come back months later and justify his action in church and say that now I'm justified because I've read the Bible and I'm giving to God, that could be doublespeak to some extent. It will therefore appear to open it up for state officers to return to the same. Do you think that is where we should be heading?
First, good morning to Kenyans listening to me. And this being the first opportunity to be on television since the month of Ramadan started, I want to wish them well, those who are fasting. And, you know, may God reward you for taking the fast. I've also been away because of the Pan-African Parliament. We had a session which has just gotten finished. And we thank God for what Africa is doing. as a parliament. Now, on this question, maybe I could first of all answer your question by saying that public fundraising is different from giving to church. I think those two should be distinguished. And I say it this way.
How different is it? Yes.
I say it this way because when I go to my church and I give my tithe or my offering, or even give in the church a harambe, I think that is different, like from when we have gone to do a fundraiser for a school, a fundraiser for funeral, a fundraiser for whatever. Because in this case, I'm not giving to charity, I'm giving to God. That's what I take to do. That's why, for me, there was one legislator in the Senate who had written a law, and in that law they were saying that we should control public fundraisers, and I think we had a discussion about around that, where people, and I really objected, where people are supposed to go and see the county executive in charge of treasury to sign for them a letter, something like that. And I was wondering, in the long time ago days, for you to do some fundraiser, we were being told to go to the DC, a county like Tana River, now the county is the district, to move from one place all the way to Hola, to go and get a letter to do fundraiser. I think that law, I was here to say that I will not obey it, even if they passed it. And if I was the only person opposing it, I would still oppose it. And I also said, you cannot regulate my matters of faith using the law. So for me, I would still go to church, and when they have a fundraiser, I would tell them, they have told us not to do fundraising, but I'm not fundraising. I'm just giving to God. And what I'm giving to God is this amount. So for me, that ban you're talking about that the president announced, for me, I just thought you cannot regulate my personal matters of faith. But outside, that's a different matter. People, I think for most people, they stopped going for funeral because they are everyday funeral fundraisers and so on. And most political leaders were saying, look, we've been told to stop. So even in WhatsApp groups, what you would do is to call the guys who are organizing, give them, and quietly, and then don't put my name in that fundraising list. I think that's what was taking shape.
No, but last year the issue was straight because the public officers who had been accused of doing this were actually doing it in church. There was a case in point where a church in somewhere in Rift Valley, someone donated 20 million shillings, and it was specifically to do with churches, leading to the ban by the president.
I know, but I'm talking about the law that was written, the law that was proposed. And that law became so unpopular in the Senate that it was withdrawn. Because most people were saying, how do you regulate matters of faith? How do you regulate that? So, but coming to this particular donation of 20 million, then 100 million, a pledge of 100 million. Let me just say this, that on Thursday, the president was in Tana River County, and we welcomed him. We had very good meetings. Later on in the evening, I sat, you know, as we always do. I think all political leaders do that. You sit to review and whatever. And one of the meetings I had was with my pastors, and a very close pastor to me told me, you need never to forget to give your tithe. So I told him, okay, I know about Malachi chapter 3. Then he told me, no, Psalms chapter 13. He said, I'm quoting you that one because God says, whatever you give I will not forget. So he said, whatever you give to me, I will not forget it. So he explained to me all these things. And then I connected it, I think 2 weeks ago I was in church. And one of the pastors, when he was preaching, he was preaching about that time when Solomon asked for wisdom. Now, we always remember what Solomon asked and what God gave him. But for the first time in a long time, somebody was preaching about the fact that there was massive giving before Solomon went before the Lord. There was massive giving from all the children of Israel. And if you look at that verse, I think you can quickly get it. You will see that before actually Solomon had the conversation with God, the pastor said, and the chapter bears it out, that they gave a lot, and God was happy with that sacrifice. And I remember also another verse that says, you should not bring to God something that costs you nothing. You know, like if you're, a person who is earning in the 50,000 and you give 100 shillings, you don't even feel anything. So you've not really given. If you're a person who is earning 100,000 and you come to God to give maybe 100 shillings, you have not really given. So I remember that teaching that David would sacrifice. He said in the Psalms that I will not give something that does not cost me anything. So I'm laying this argument that the president is a very wealthy man, as many Kenyans know. And he was wealthy even before he became the president. People know he's also been a very generous person as a deputy president. And even when he was minister, people know that the president has been generous. How much his wealth is, I can't talk about it because I don't know, okay? But I can say this, that he's a wealthy man.
He can afford it, definitely.
And I think that...
it's just the direction of the money.
If he says that if maybe he's applying one of these principles, that I will not give to God something that doesn't cost me anything, because between me and you, if we said we are giving 1 million shillings, it's a lot of money for us. But there are people giving 10 million doesn't.
All right.
So for
but
me,
he went beyond
because
the money.
It's a matter of faith, I would rather say that the things of God between a person and his God are between the two of them.
As a matter of faith.
Yeah.
But he went ahead, Bonapogisio. He did not just give money. Oh, I'm informed that we need to take a short break. Let's take a break, and when we come back, we discuss what else he gave to the church yesterday.
Is changing every day, and so should we, for the better. Each week, we tackle the big why, the question that should be on everyone's mind. Why isn't this fixed yet? Deforestation, global warming, and the adverse effects of climate change. The future isn't just something that we inherit, it's something that we create. Join us on The Green Fix as we tell the stories of those who refuse to give up. When it comes to fixing the planet, there is no time to waste. Join me, Shiksha Arora, on Thursdays at 9 p.m. on The Green Fix as we look into the big why, you and I.
For comprehensive information and education on your health, Body Garage is here.
Don't allow anyone to pluck out your good tooth as long as it is strong and stable.
Cancer doesn't start today and you get the symptoms tomorrow. By the time you pick it or the time it is manifesting in you, probably will be there about 5 to 10 years.
The eye is the window to the rest of the body.
Don't forget to stay hydrated.
And of course, you at home do take your water.
So the ultimate test is actually you check your urine. Your urine should be clear.
Clear like the water?
Yes. Should be able to see the other side of the urine. If your urine is colored or has changed color, you cannot see the other side, then you have not taken enough water.
Don't forget regular health checkups. Early detection saves lives.
I want the message be, we can prevent cervical cancer. We prevent cervical cancer in several ways. You have young girls and even somebody who's above that age, you can pay at least every 3 years. Somebody should have a pap smear done.
If you are 40, 45, 50, going upwards, once a year, please go see a doctor. Yeah, it's just for normal routine maintenance.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
You're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us.
Welcome back. You're still watching Morning Cafe on TV 47, State of the Nation. A quick look at the big headlines. Fundraisers are back with a bang, with President Ruto pledging 100 million shillings to one church, and that's after he had given 20 million shillings. That's to the Jesus Winner Ministry in Roysambu. He went ahead and gave something else. In addition to his generous financial pledge, Ruto confirmed that the church owns a 20-acre piece of land, addressing a dispute with the Kenya Defence Forces over its ownership. This is a piece of land that has been in dispute between KDF, Kenya's military, defense forces, and this church. And the president said, I am the commander-in-chief. Since I'm the commander-in-chief, I told KDF that this land is a holy place and the church will be built there. I'll personally join hands with you to make it happen. He added, Bwana Pogisio, charity to what extent? Why to one church? Why more than 120 million shillings? Then you give 20 acres of KDF land, or land that is in dispute for that matter.
Fred, it's a bit baffling. It doesn't make any sense at all that this church would require 20 acres of land, but also that they require an extra thing called maybe 120 million. And even the manner of announcing, it's a bit baffling. Announcing not only the 120 million, but announcing that I have ordered this land to be given. I mean, land disputes with KDF, it's actually the military land. So I don't know. I don't know what happened to the president in that church. Whether he went there knowing he was going to do that, or was it pressured to do it when he went there? Because it's amazing how, if you have given them the land, surely they don't need even that money, because probably they wanted money to buy land for their projects or something like that. However, it is going to be something that could be challenged one day. How did government land get given away? And by the way, I think, I mean, everybody knows the commander-in-chief is the president, but can you command away things? that belong to the military. And if it is not negotiated, it could come back. It's not negotiated. If it's not actually agreed by the military, it could come back someday. So the church will be very careful about taking that ownership. But also, here is my problem with, I think the discussion, even what my friend Mungatana has said here. The true religion, according to the Bible, true religion, it's all written there, is taking care of the widows and orphans. I don't find true religion giving money for development. A true religion is actually taking care of the weakest in society. And so if the president was looking to give to God, I think that's where God is. God is not necessarily in our churches, by the way. God it doesn't necessarily reside in our churches. Because we know some churches that, you know, you'll be very careful to even go there because of what happens there. So it's not the physical structure that develops. Physical structure, God is not it's not. The only thing you know is, he says true religion is taking care of widows, orphans. And that's what we're saying. There are many needy places and people at this particular time that we'd like to see the president give. And then, of course, the other thing is to say about the land. One church, getting everything in one day. Now, what will happen to the 999,000 churches that are there? Everybody's going to say, okay, fine. That means you have enough for all of us.
We can identify land somewhere and say,
so now you didn't give us, you gave that one church, so that's your church. It's very dangerous to go that route. It's very dangerous. 20 acres can probably house so many.
Or even a school or a different project. But
anyway, so going to the language, and I think the same thing that my colleague said, that I'm giving to God, then find where God's heart is, if you want to give to God. But secondly, do it between you and God.
Right. We hear the president invoking his title as commander-in-chief, but can he command away a land dispute and say, now, as commander-in-chief, I've decided this land is yours?
Friend, this matter of faith is also tricky business. We have had a very good sermon today from
our
Bishop Mungatana. And the matter of faith and where God's heart is from Reverend on this side. And I want to be neutral. And I will speak and throw stones in the whole thing. The issue of land and churches have been a thorny issue for a long, long time. From the major churches, the Catholic Church, Africa Inland Church, I can name a few, because they benefited from state allocations, their closeness to the powers that be, for a long, long time. And I'm sure you can research about it, and you'll find that that statement is true. And the president, being a good student of those days, and now being commander-in-chief, knows how they attracted such following. And therefore, it could be good. He's still operating on the old constitution, if you asked me, that he probably does not remember that the issue of land is a very sensitive land, and especially that land that belongs to where he is a commander-in-chief. But we've seen people getting into land that belongs to judiciary, to prisons. I've read such things. Getting into that area with the controversies that it attracts, even the affordable housing projects that are going on have been, put in the controversial issue of land. So it's a continuation as far as I'm concerned. And I said, let me speak politically. The other political statement that I would want to throw stones into the whole thing is that the 20 acres of land and this church in Loisambu could be an individual or company project that is going to be used to lauder money through maybe building of a school and a hospital and all those kind of things. You know it has been happening. So that's another angle. And then Loisambu is the gateway to Mount Kenya. That also attracts a political eye. And the person and persons allowed around that unit could be a focal point person to attract other religious leaders who can access the person in other projects where he needs to have his influence felt for his next elections. For me, and from where I sit, is a wait and see. But invoking God, I want to throw another stone, that there is a God in capital letters and there is a God in small g. So let us leave it at that.
All right. And even as Commander-in-Chief, we do not dispute his authority. Probably he should have used different language and said, we've resolved the land dispute to this extent. But he says, as Commander-in-Chief, the land is now yours. That statement in itself says that he has not even exhausted probably the resolution or the arbitration of the dispute. That in itself leaves a lot of questions more than answers, Senator.
You see, for me, coming from Tana River, we have a very big problem with government agencies that have taken a lot of land from the people, our land, and they have said it's their land. Okay? And I guess if the senator from Laikipia was seated here, they would also say the same thing about KDF in their county. But for me, I'm not talking about KDF. I'm talking about NYS. NYS has taken a lot of land in Tana River County. And it has affected even the county expansion programs. And I'm specific, like in Madogo, the marketplace where it's supposed to be constructed, there are issues about where we are going to get the land. And even when the county government has allocated land, you will find an agency like Kenya Forest, claiming that area you can't use it, like National Youth Service claiming that area you can't use it, and you find yourself in a problem. In Galole constituency, for example, in my own county, the National Irrigation Authority has taken so much land. So when the town, Hola town, where our headquarters is, was small, it was okay, you could live with it. But then now population has increased and the county needs to expand. just to get a few acreage from those agencies, and I'm giving examples what those agencies have been doing across the country. So for me, and that's why it's important for people to inject into the national discussions things that are coming from the ground, from reality. When we tell you that government agencies and even some churches, you know, they have just been allocated too much land and they need to give it up, I think that is a conversation that needs to be had in this country. So even private entities, you know, and it is here, even here in Kiambu County, there's been a long discussion about Del Monte and expiry of lease and things like that. So from where I sit, that thing of telling a government agency to surrender land is something that for us, it's a good thing.
To surrender to a private entity, to one church?
No,
for example, the NYS land you say in Tana River, if the president came there and hived off 20 acres and gave it to one church, would that be okay?
No. The way I'm looking at it is, he hives off that 20 acres and gives it to the construction of a marketplace, expansion of the municipality of the county, and stuff like that.
So giving it to one church would be questionable.
No, from where I sit, let me say that there are some public entities that have taken a lot of land. And from where I sit, it is time that we should have a conversation about these public entities and what they use that land for. Now, whether that land is given to individuals for public good, or it's given to a municipality for public good, or it's given to a county for public good, those are details. But the principle must be, Fred, that we need to have a discussion about how much land, not even just public land, I mean even private individuals who are having millions of acreage, at ranches, and then people don't have land next to you. There's a problem. So that whole equation, I think we should have a bigger conversation. But coming to this land in Roysambu, I don't have the facts whether that dispute was in court or that dispute was in its initial stages. It hasn't gone to court. But if it is between the KDF and the church, and the leader of KDF, the CNC, the chief commander-in-chief, has said, on our side, we are willing to give it out, then the church and the KDF will sit down and work out the details. What I know, if the matter is in court, it doesn't just happen. There's got to be a lot of discussions about how a consent can be recorded. And if it is a matter that has not even gone to court, even when the president makes public pronouncements, what happens in the backyard, like all of us who have been in government know, there are negotiations around making that a reality. And sometimes presidential declarations become difficult to implement, and a feedback is sent to the authority that now actually, although that was a political request and it was done this way, we can't fulfill it, or we can only do 50%, or we can only do 30% because of the realities X, Y, Z. So I know for a fact that because the president said there will be negotiations, or hurrying up those negotiations. Okay. And I think I'd like to leave it there, that we must have a discussion about how individuals, private entities, and public entities have held land across this country, and also to say that when a presidential directive is given, implementation of it sometimes doesn't give the exact result that was announced.
And if we had time, we would have discussed this issue about land and the housing project, because it's an issue of land as well. The government has entered into 50 billion close affordable housing contracts on parcels of land with missing title deeds, raising the question on how Kenyans buying houses from the projects will get sectional titles to own their units in absence of original titles, at a time when the housing program continues to operate in an opaque regulatory environment. And they're asking, are beneficiaries risking their hard-earned cash That's a question about the affordable housing project, but because of time, we may not really delve into that today. It also has to do with land. The Standard, who've become experts in two-word headlines of late. They caused ripples even in Uganda with a very hard-hitting headline on the president's son last week. So today they say, co-president Raila, and they ask a question. A political realignment is taking shape as ODM leader Raila Odinga nears a deal with President William Ruto. The agreement, modeled after past power-sharing pacts, could see Raila assume a non-executive prime minister role. Sources say plans are underway to prepare Harambee House, traditionally the seat of the presidency, for him. This is a repeat of what we saw in 2008 with the Grand Coalition government, of which you are a part of, Bwana Pogesio, as a member of cabinet. We saw the now Harambee House annex that the House as a deputy president fashioned to accommodate the prime minister then. Then we saw so many issues about protocol. Who comes next after president? Is it the prime minister? Is it the vice president? Issues to do with how long the carpet should be. Issues to do with how the prime minister should be treated. Co-president, are we repeating what we did with the Grand Coalition government?
Thank you, Fred. And this is a very juicy headline. I mean, if anyone looking at it would wonder, is Prime Minister, former Prime Minister Raila, about to assume another very prominent position in Kenya? Would he take advantage of a situation in the country? Because right now, I think that the president will probably do anything, to make sure that he has the support of Prime Minister Raila Odinga. And so I will not be surprised if at this point, I know that we have an insider of these things with us, but I do not think that the Prime Minister Raila Odinga is still very keen on just positions. He has seen it all. In my view, he has been Prime Minister. He has been whatever, and has enjoyed perks. He's enjoyed government positions. He's been a very senior person. I think it was in the AU. You know, so you know, he has seen these things. So if it's power he's looking for, he'll probably not want to be associated with this being a co-president or prime minister. In my view, and I've seen it happening, that he says he wants to see a real position that will enable him to bring change within this government. Now, whether the president is going to allow Raila to come in and allow him to actually do real change, and he has mentioned them. You see, he's going around the country and he's asking specific questions about corruption, about failing systems, about abductions, very sensitive subjects, and whether then you are going to be allowed to do that. And I do believe, since we have said and this is just my view, that these are probably the moments when Raila will want to show his true self, true color, his true character, being a fighter, a champion for human rights, a champion against corruption. And this is probably the time. So if the president is willing to say, come and run with that project, he would be doing something akin to what Elon Musk is doing in the US, right? So what has President Trump done? Say, Elon Musk, the things I cannot do, let's partner here, and you go and do those things. And I think if the office is being prepared for that kind of mission, I think that Raila will probably say, okay, give me all the power, but now how does that happen? Because it's not for the president to give. It is in the Constitution.
But would the president be willing to cede power to that extent?
First of all,
he has no choice.
It's not for him to do, but because our Constitution, to create a position like that, our Constitution is not easy within our Constitution to just do it by pronouncement. Okay, that means we are back we will be back to look at either BBI or look at the more recent document, NETCO, and look at how that can happen. And then go to Parliament and also just maybe if it requires a referendum, we plan and do a referendum. The idea is that whichever way it takes, he can also be appointed as Prime Cabinet Secretary and be given and change what the things are. But then what do you do with the current Prime Cabinet Secretary? But these are all negotiations. I'm sure there is something that's going to happen. And I'm not going to say that I know anything about it. But my feeling is that Prime Minister Raila Amolo Odinga has said he's going to go around and ask opinions of people, public opinion of what people think if I went for that position.
Right.
So, and since I'm one of the publics, that's my thinking. That if he accepts a job just for the sake of it, for a title, then that's not Raila Amolo Odinga.
All right.
Yeah.
And this headline appears to suggest that the issue is around just how powerful whatever position Raila Odinga gets to occupy in this arrangement will be. He has been Prime Minister before, and he saw the hurdles of him trying to be a co-principal in the Grand Coalition government. He would not want to revisit that kind of deal where he's constantly being made to look like he's weaker. He will want to show true force. Listening to Raila Odinga in the past 2 days especially, he is very intent on flexing his muscle inside this government. Co-president, despite the legal hurdles, could that be just what we're looking at?
I'll pick it from where my colleague left it. I am not that insider, but I respect the way the Right Honorable Raila Odinga, who happens to be my boss, is doing a balancing act. And for him to withstand pressures from all sides, from within the party, from within the ODM party, that the country is saying, do not join. And you know the name they call the president. Don't be associated with him. And still the side that is now opposition in the government, that is the wing that the former Vice President Rigathi Gachagua pulled out with members from his party and have now coalesced with the other wing of Azimio, who are talking to him and telling him, we want to know, now that you have not made it to the AU, you are back, on what side are you? Because if we know, if you pronounce yourself that you are with Kasongo, then we know how to deal with you. In fact, we are going to pack the two of you out. You want to Sugoi and you to Bondo. I mean, you have heard those statements. And I think I respect the way Right Honorable Raila Odinga is balancing. That amidst the pressure, he pulls back and says, I am still consulting. I want to listen to the ground. Yet he lists what he has picked from the ground. And in their boardroom or coffee, sitting with the president, he is able to fill the gaps. This is what the country needs. So this power thing, co-president, prime minister, prime cabinet minister are not important to him as far as I'm concerned. But to drive that agenda and makes things happen for the good of Kenyans, I wish we had many people. A leadership of a few people who would take that stand without looking for the position. True. Even the wisdom that the co-president, the current president, I don't want to throw all the mud at him as the others are doing. I didn't make it in AU. Probably he's still appreciating the efforts that the current president did. I was in Addis Ababa, and I can tell you, we saw the efforts. It takes a heart of steel to go through what they both went through. So I think that is statesmanship, that I am back. I'm still useful to the country. You are still in charge. Where I can help, I will. And where I will disagree with you, I will. From where I sit, that's statesmanship. The preparation about office in Annex or Harambee House. Yeah, it's a good thing. If I'm helping and I'm facilitated to help and put out his agenda with the whatever he's speaking from the ground. My plea to them, because for either to succeed, for my boss with that focus that he has on doing a different thing on the ground, and for the president to succeed in to move from the 14 promises to 200 and something, or even half of them, they need each other. They will need each other. How they are going to work is a different thing.
Okay.
But I also call it wisdom. For him, my party leader, to give the president his space so that he can work if he wants to work. It becomes very difficult to balance between the two. And I am saying he needs wisdom. For any coalition, since the NAC coalition where we were with the Dogo Bishop, you don't need 2 years to do a coalition to deal with the current regime. In fact, 6-7 months towards it is enough.
Okay.
So anybody who is crafting this cooperation and coalition at this time, I think they are missing the point. My last one is that, I look at the papers and social media and TV programs, and I like and admire the way there's confusion in politicians, that politicians who are even serving a first time in parliament and who have been given space just because they are next to national leaders like the former Vice President Kalonzo Musyoka, the former Deputy President, an eminent lady like Mother Karua, you know, huge public opinion shapers. And you find us minions like myself and others now talking to my party leader. You tell us whether you are coming to join us so that we decide where to place you. And you know, we are missing it.
Okay.
We are missing it big time.
Okay.
And I think as leaders in this country, we will have to learn some political hygiene, place ourselves where we belong. I have not been a fan of KK, and you know it, but I want to respect them. Let's respect the leadership of at that level. We belong to different structures.
But in a working relationship like the Grand Coalition government, because probably that's what we're looking at, there are some real challenges. And because you were one of the Mwai Kibaki loyalists back then, and there was pressure on how much space you can occupy and how much space you can allow the Prime Minister and his people to occupy in government. That is what we are staring at this time. Are you concerned that with such headlines and a possibility of someone else powerful, we don't know how powerful, they're suggesting co-president, meaning that they're suggesting someone as powerful as a president, that could really affect Kenya Kwanza especially?
I have never supported coalition governments before, and I won't support them now. And I've been very clear in my mind that I had the fortune of negotiating the Naivasha Accord that gave us the new constitution. And from where I sit, there was a very clear decision that when someone wins the election with the number of counties is 50 plus 1. When someone gets that 50 plus 1, let us give him a chance to govern. We may not agree with him or her, but let us give him an opportunity to govern. And I was very clear in my thinking that our constitution, the new one that we are now, it's now a world constitution, is fashioned after the United States Constitution in very many ways. We just did a bit of ukarabati here and there, but a lot of things follow what the US Constitution says. And in the US Constitution, you could even have a president who doesn't win the majority vote, but he's still the president because of their system of elections. We didn't put that one in Kenya. But you have almost like 50-50 in the US. Almost 50-50. There are states that will always vote Democrats. There are states that will always vote Republican. And it's almost like a given that after 10 years, there's a change on the other side. After 10 years, there's a change on the other side. And let me tell you, people are very passionate about their politics. As we are talking now, there are a lot of demonstrations against the discussions against between President Zelensky and President Trump and J.D. Vance, the vice president, how they interacted. There are people, the Democrats have gone out to hurl all manner of words against the president, Trump, and there are people who have come out to say this is the way that we ought to have treated Zelensky from the very beginning. But that difference of opinion doesn't cause anybody to be hurt. Nobody goes to jail. Nobody threatens to overturn Trump because they have differences. And I think for me, this is what we need to take into Kenya. You know, I personally, and have told a lot of colleagues in the Senate, that there are things that I can't say, but you can say, and you need to say them for this country to work better. But you don't need to join me. Because when you join me, who is going to say those things that need to be said? So the political hygiene for me is a mess.
So you do not support this kind of working relationship?
I don't support it. Let me tell you, we were seated, I was then Assistant Minister, Justice and Constitutional Affairs with Martha Karua as the minister. We were seated that day, and then from where our ministry was, you could see Harambee House. That's the day Raila Odinga and Mwai Kibaki were signing before Kofi Annan. And we were seeing, for us, something that was wrong, you know, from where I sit. Because, you see, previous to that signing, Kofi Annan came to Parliament. And in that Parliament, he was asking just like ideas. It was a kamkunji, not really a parliamentary sitting. He was asking, as members of Parliament, what we think. And I was fortunate to be one of the people who spoke in that sitting. And I said, Bwana Kofi Annan, from my thinking, we ran on a promise, mambo iendelee, you know, kazi iendelee. These people said, kazi ianze. And they have been very focused. Raila has been very focused about constitutional change. So, let us strengthen the role of the leader of opposition, okay? Because at that time, you are a president and you are also a member of parliament. Let us pay them half salaries. Let us give them offices. And let us go further by creating a constitutional arrangement where, within Parliament, he chairs the constitutional changes that need to be giving birth to a new constitution. Remember, at that time, we didn't have one. And let us then support Raila as a Parliament for him to deliver on that.
As opposition leader.
At that time, a new constitution. Because as we were saying, kazi iendelee, or kazi ianze sasa. They were saying kazi ianze sasa. So I argued that let us have a strengthened opposition, but let the government that has won the election continue. And I remember colleagues from the ODM side really opposing, said Nusumkate is better than nothing, you know. And for me, and I said it then, and I will say it now, it denied Raila being a president in the next general election. Because, you know, the moment you enter that government, you can never come out and say, I wasn't part of that. It's very difficult. It's a very difficult campaign, and that's the problem that costed him his presidency. And if he intends to run for president in the future, and he's in this government, or he takes any position in this government, he won't succeed. He won't succeed. I would say again, I have run twice for governor in Tana River, and I lost. And I didn't cause any problems to the first guy who won, and the second guy who won. Didn't cause any problems to them, just pointing out the things that need to be done.
But be fair to Raila Odinga right now, it's the president inviting him to government. It's not Raila demanding.
Do you think he is, he's not a minion in politics. We won these elections by a margin of about 200 and something thousand. So you can't say he's being invited. I'm sure he's in a position to say, I don't want to hear anything about this. Let us play our role as opposition, and when the time comes, we will tell Kenyans to make the choice. And I'm telling you, Fred, that this whole idea about just mixing people up, it's not good for this country. We need to have a good opposition. You don't have to be loyal to this administration, but loyal to the Republic of Kenya. Okay. Being loyal to the Republic of Kenya means you are not going to look to overthrow the government, you are not going to cause chaos and all that, but you are going to say the things that need to be said. Okay. And the administration to do what they promised. But if you are the strong opposition and then you do not carry out your role, then the government tends to be lax. And then the people who lose out is the general population.
Allow me to give each one of you some minutes for your final words, but Bwana the senator here has introduced something totally different that he seems to suggest Raila Odinga really may have fought for this position, and it was not out of necessity that the president invited him to government. Could that be in any way true?
Well, you must understand that Senator Mungata has publicly stated that he is not supportive of some of these coalitions, which is from the very beginning. So that thinking comes right from there. This is, in my view, a reflection of what happened after the AUC seat. And you can say that President Ruto worked hard to make sure that the vote went the right way, but it didn't go the right way. He has taken the initiative, and the reason sometimes I do support his position, because that Raila Amolo Odinga has actually started testing the waters with Ruto by allowing his very closest friends to be part of this government already. And the people who have gone into this government, who are senior people in ODM, you can't tell them to get out now. They have gotten into something it's so sweet, so good, that they will not hear anything about, changing that position, refusing to join. And so there is a tug that is like a tug of war, a struggle, a competition for which side Raila will go. So while his colleagues in Azimio are pulling him to their side to try to come back, his own people who are ministers in government and who have just joined government are busy telling the people, we've never been given these positions before. This is the best man to support, and so pull the prime minister to their side. So right now it's a big struggle for him. His decision is whether to follow his ministers on this side or actually think about the people.
Can the president afford to work without Raila Odinga at this time?
No, I don't believe so. I don't believe he can. But I'm not so sure that he's the one who is pushing for it. He needs him so badly, and like he needs his people. The people who appointed ministers from ODM as now the most, if I could use the word violent, proponents of William Ruto. They don't see anything wrong with the president. So they see a good guy, because what they are doing is now telling Raila, please, I'm telling the people from their area, this has never been given to us before, let's protect it. So, I mean, it is possible that, in my view, that Raila now may override that. He has the capacity to do it. But he also needs to change some things in this government. He also needs to change this country. Whether he'll be given the chance to do it, whether he will actually be allowed to bring in his own dream team to make these changes happen, I don't know. But it will require that. It must then build a dream team, a team that can bring the changes that he's about. But here is my other final thought. Co-president, they might also agree that in the future, they have to decide which one of them is going to run for president.
All right. Definitely Raila Odinga, in getting into this, whatever it will be, co-president, working relationship, he has a lot of faith in what he can do in government. He would not have opted for this if he knew he was going to fail. He has a lot of faith in this kind of working. From an insider, where does his faith come from? Is he so sure that he can get that space inside William Ruto's government?
I will not call myself an insider, but I look at the way he balances. It takes a lot of courage and wisdom to balance the pulls from both ends. Let me start by opposition. My friend here is talking about how the Constitution was crafted that let opposition be opposition and operate as opposition to checkmate the government that has won. Number one, I remind him that all the wins have been controversial, whether it is by 200 votes or swearing at night or an 8-minute judgment at the Supreme Court, they have always been controversial. We have not had the courage to sort out the controversies around the elections. That's, for me, that's something that is very important. Number two, there has not been a budget passed by the good houses, the Senate and the National Assembly, to fully take care of the office of the opposition in its mandate of checkmating the government. So how the opposition leader, in quotes, is supposed to work without a budget from the good principles of from Parliament, from where I sit, it is still do it, but we are not going to facilitate you to do it. The genuineness of that offer is questionable. Okay. The third one, I am not in that privileged position to have sat in the constitution making process. I was in Bomas, but the Kilifi and Naivasha, where many things were done, he was there, I was not there. But let me point out from a general, simple understanding of our Constitution. And next time you sit with him, ask him about Article 130 of our Constitution. It has the formation of the government and Parliament and judiciary. But in my simple understanding of the formation of the government by the president who wins, is that he appoints from across the country. And this thought by most politicians that it must be from his party. From where I sit, I read it differently. And I'm saying I'm not an expert. Okay. And I think that's where my party leader and others know that helping the presidency to perform for the country and leaving Parliament to do the political parties thing, where you have the minority and majority, is a different thing. Okay. And from where I sit, for this country to move forward, we probably need now people who will not only be selfish to the point of I didn't make it, but I'm helping the person who is there. Raila is opposition, he just wants the position of our prime minister. Let's bring people who will lift this country to grow to where we want it to be. Thank you.
Right. Parting shot, Bwana Ngatana, you have a minute.
Oh, I'll just say let us be faithful to the Constitution. The Constitution creates a minority and a majority. It doesn't create even an opposition. Minority and majority side, but all faithful to the Republic of Kenya. And it is true, at the cabinet level, you can appoint any person, you know, whether they are they were in the minority. And in the US, of course, people who are Republicans have served presidents who are Democrats. People who are Democrats have served presidents who are Republican. But I'm saying you cannot, for example, bring in the Kamala Harris to come and sit in the government of Trump. It denies the country that other balancing opinion that is required. Even in your house, you don't want a doormat wife, you know, or a doormat husband. You need that opinion all the time. And it doesn't mean that because you are in the opposition, you are lesser, or because you are in the seat, you are lesser or more important. You just need the balancing so that the family can go ahead, so that the country can move ahead. That is my final take. Please let us be faithful to the Constitution.
Thank you so much, Danson Mungatana, Senator Tana River, and also a member of the Pan-African Parliament. Dr. Mumbingaru has served as MP, East Africa Legislative Assembly, and as Mayor of Thika Town, and Samuel Pogisio, who served as Senate Majority Leader in the 12th Parliament and also as Cabinet Minister in the Kibaki II administration. Our panelists this morning, as we take a look at the headlines. Co-President Raila is a big one on the front page of the Standard. They ask, will he be that powerful? Red flags in Ruto's housing projects, that's the one on the Daily Nation. Families go hungry as high food prices bite. These are just some of the headlines this morning. After the break, Monday Blitz coming up. Benny McCarthy now taking charge of Harambee Stars. How will it go? Fred Arocho and Shutterboy will be in studio. My name is Fred Indemuli. Good morning.